Okay, we're gonna start recording right now because we're talking foods here in Chicago. We are at Cinepocalypse, the third incarnation, and walking through the streets over the last day, Miss Chelsea Stardust, the food has been plentiful. Everything from hot dogs to deep dish pizza. Today, empanadas. I had this key lime pastry this morning with coffee. The empanada place right up, Cafe Talo, right across, they have this amazing little... I don't know, I guess you could say coffee shop, but kind of elevated.
Yeah, okay.
And it's absolutely beautiful. The coffee was delicious. Not like home, not like what my fiance would make. I love her for that. One of the many reasons, but it's fantastic to be able to be in Chicago and to have such a delicacy. So how are you doing? I mean, this is like, now it's face-to-face, but this is like twice in a month now.
I know,
I know. Base. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here.
Good.
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Loving this weather.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I know, out in L.A., it's a different climate altogether. This feels closer to what we deal with in the bunker in Blairstown in Jersey, with the way the seasons are. So it's nice to be in a place that is kind of, feels kind of springy to it.
Yeah, I'm from Ohio, so it feels like home to me.
Exactly right.
Like when we landed, I was like, oh, there's trees and greenery and this is awesome. Like it felt like summer back home. So I'm loving it. So happy to be here. We're super lucky with these beautiful blue skies. And of course, first thing I said to my friend I'm staying with is, let's talk about food. Like, what are we going to eat while I'm here? Because it's one of the most important things for me.
The food here is so good so far. And I haven't been to Chicago in about 5 or 6 years. Last time I was here, I actually went to a place where they had just opened. So I had some of the best chicken and waffles I've ever had in my life. So Chicago does have a place every time I come here now where it's really amazing food. But you're here for Satanic Panic.
Yes.
First of all, congratulations. I had a chance to see it at Overlook.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. And then you had the cast, the crew, the writers, everyone up on stage.
Yeah, it was crazy.
In New Orleans. So before we talk about Cinepocalypse being here, how was that screening?
That was the first time.
World premiere, right?
World premiere. So that was the first time it screened in front of an audience. I had shown it to, I have a think tank back in LA that I show everything to. Also, Fangoria has their group of people they show everything to. Getting notes on the cuts so I can change the edit and feel what's working, what's not working.
Right.
And it was the first time to see it with a big group. And obviously I was feeling a lot of love in the room because a lot of the crew was there, a lot of the cast was there. So I felt a lot of love. I, was super nervous. And I feel like I had an out-of-body experience. I went somewhere else. The screening itself, I feel like I blacked out for.
Right.
But it was interesting to see, how different audiences react to different things. So, how it screened at Overlook versus Oak Cliff in Dallas, which is the film festival I was at last weekend. I'm curious to see how people react to jokes and things at the Chicago audience. But it was a total whirlwind. After the movie was done screening, I was so exhausted. All the adrenaline had just run out of my body. Right. And we went to the after party. I could barely talk to anyone. And of course a lot of people were coming up and being like, I loved your movie. And everyone was very kind, but I could barely speak to anyone because it almost feels, well, in a way, you are birthing a baby. So it's your film baby, and then it's out in the world and you hope it does okay. But you're so emotionally exhausted because it basically, these months and months and months you're working on a film, because as a director, you stay with the movie.
Right, exactly.
The cast goes on to do other things, your crew goes on to do other things, but you're with the movie basically until it comes out on Blu-ray. You're literally doing stuff up until it's on Blu-ray and then out and then you're done. That's when you're fully finished, I think. Until 20 years from now you get invited to a midnight screening of it.
Exactly right.
So it was exhausting. And Overlook, that's where we wanted to premiere it from the beginning. So I was really excited about that. And then screening in Dallas was wonderful because our crew was there and a lot of our local cast was there. That screening was fucking insane. It was huge. We filled the Texas theater.
Wow.
It was like a filmmaker. It was a director's dream in terms of how the how the crowd reacted. They laughed and gasped and yelped and squealed, and someone audibly was like, "Oh my God!" at one part. I was like, "This is a fucking dream. This makes me feel so good." And that screening just slayed. So I'm really excited to see how Cinepocalypse reacts to it. I cannot wait to see what the audience thinks of this crazy movie.
And it's this weekend. It's going to be Sunday evening, which is a prime slot for any film festival because you've got the end of the weekend. People have gone through so much. This is one of the last impressions you're going to be able to get. But the first time you were on Scratching the Surface for All That We Destroy, the Hulu and Blumhouse series, is it a different feeling with that being released versus Satanic Panic? Totally
different. So what's interesting about Satanic Panic versus All That We Destroy is streaming. So I did one screening in LA with friends and family, and I got to see, everyone reacting to it, but they're all people who I know and worked on the movie. So it's a very different sort of reaction. You can't really see how people react to your movie in person with All That We Destroy because it's streaming. So you just look hashtag All That We Destroy on Twitter to
all the analytics and stuff to
exactly see. And Hulu, they don't share that information of how well it does or whatever, but when I look it up online, the amount of love for the movie is so wonderful. Whereas with Satanic Panic, I can actually be there when audiences are watching it. I can have people come up to me and talk to me about it, what they loved or what it was like to work on it, and I have direct access to everyone, whereas through Twitter I'm responding to everyone, and it's great to have direct access to the fans in that capacity, but it's so nice to be able to talk to people face to face and to watch people's reaction. And I'm always looking at the audience to see how people are reacting to different jokes and what lands with one audience and what another audience will laugh at something totally different, and it's really fascinating. But it's of course a dream to see your movie on a big screen.
Exactly.
And I didn't get to do any film festivals with All That We Destroy, so the fact that I get to do a whole bunch with Satanic Panic is really special, and that it's getting a theatrical release on September 6th, and also VOD, digital HD, and then it'll be on DVD in the fall, so I think, and to have hard media.
Right, exactly, tangible.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I'm a vinyl collector. I still buy DVDs. I'm a hard media person. And so the fact that it will be out on Blu-ray is I
awesome.
am super into that.
So for you, is the screening on Sunday for Cinepocalypse of Satanic Panic going to be a different mindset entirely than Overlook? Because at Overlook, you talked about there were so many people in the audience. It was amazing. It was euphoric. It was also probably a little bit comfortable and nerve-wracking.
Yes.
Versus here where it's completely different. Can you talk to the different screening and the different mindset for it?
Oh, yeah. Overlook, the advantage I had there was cast was there, crew was there, my parents were there. Yeah, they came out for it. My boyfriend was there.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So everyone was there for it. And it was a smaller screening room, too. Whereas in Texas, we had the local cast and a lot of the crew were working when it was screening, but the ones that could be there were there. But otherwise, that was just like Dallas, Texas. But I had an advantage because we shot the movie in Dallas.
Exactly right. And Fangoria's down there.
And Fangoria's in Dallas. So, I already, had the home field advantage there. This will be very different because I have a handful of friends here. And I'm the only one here on behalf of the film. And, we don't have cast here. We don't have any crew here, though, siblings of certain crew members are coming and bringing all their friends and things like that, which is awesome. And so I'm really excited to see how this crowd reacts to it. And also, this is it's called Cinepocalypse. And this movie to me is super, I call it a punk rock satanic Wizard of Oz, as you know.
It fits the theme.
It fits the theme. Yeah. And I just think, and seeing something like Danzig's movie and then seeing the movie earlier today, I was like, oh yeah, I'm super excited. You just look at the lineup for this festival. I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited to be included with all these other movies that are in the similar family. And also to be on Sunday, I'm excited because this movie I want people to go in and be like, this is so fucking fun, and I'm having a great time. I just want people to come in, relax, enjoy themselves, have a laugh. And I like to think of this movie as one you teenagers will rent when they're having a sleepover, and watch together. So
it's a 180 from All That We Destroy, and I think that's one of the important things that filmmakers need to do, especially in the genre, because you can get pigeonholed really, really, really quick with it. So was that important to be able to go from something as serious with mad science, with the aspect of parenting, with so many different dark elements, to something that's obviously you're dealing with the aspect of the super rich. You're dealing with a lot of fun. You're dealing with kind of silly at certain times. How important is it to change?
I think it's really important. That's one of the reasons I took Satanic Panic, because it was so different from All That We Destroy, which is, this science fiction thriller. And Satanic Panic is absolutely bonkers bombastic.
Yeah.
A comedy horror film. It couldn't be more different. But I also think it's important for me personally, I want to explore all the subgenres of horror. So obviously I did sci-fi and thriller. This is horror comedy. I would love to I'm attached to a psychological thriller. I'm also attached to a serial killer piece. So I just want to keep exploring these subgenres. I'd love to do body horror. But I want to keep exploring. At the end of the day, it's all about the story to me. So I just want to direct great scripts. Like, that's sort of where it starts for me.
Fangoria, basically, they're overseeing this project. It's part of their new film line that they're doing. We saw it with Puppet Master last year. This year with Satanic Panic. More to come. Joby Ghost has VFW coming out, which is going to be a freaking ride in itself. So when Fangoria came to you, or what was how did you two get connected?
That's a great question. Basically, a couple different things. So they wanted a female director specifically for Satanic Panic, and they obviously are doing a lot of other projects with women, which I'm really excited about. There's a couple things. They were looking for female directors. Dallas spoke to my agent when he was, called up UTA looking for someone.
Dallas is who?
Dallas Saunier of Fangoria and Cinestate, producer of Satanic Panic. The script was sent to me for my consideration, but he also, I believe, talked to, I heard, of course, I hear the stories after we make the movie, of all the inside, gossip. But I guess he reached out to Blumhouse, because I had worked at Blumhouse for 4 years. And Ryan Turek, he's talked to Ryan like, hey, who do you think should direct this? And he said, me. He said, Chelsea Stardust. And I believe Dallas got to see All That We Destroy as well before it was finished, to sort of see what I could do. And then when I actually reread the script, because a friend had sent it many months before it was sent to me for my consideration, just to read for fun. I read it. I loved it. And so then it came to my reps. I was like, oh my God, I love this script. I loved Grady. I wanted to be part of Fangoria. I was also a fan of Ted Gagan's movies, who wrote the story with Grady, and then Grady penned the script. And I basically just pitched the shit out of it. I did a call with the producers, Dallas and Amanda Presmick and Adam Goldworm, and I pitched my vision. I said, this is what I want to do. These are my inspirations. This is how I want it to look. And I also told them that I came from horror comedy, and I don't know if any other directors they were looking at had come from both comedy and horror like I did, because I worked for Judd Apatow and Ivan Reitman and then Jason Blum. And then after this conference call I put together a huge email with stills I pulled from other movies and gave score references and song references, and I did a playlist on Spotify that I will share when the movie premieres. I'll share the Spotify list, so if people want to see the music we listened to when we were prepping the movie. And I was just really clear with my vision. And ultimately, like Dallas said, that's why we picked you. You knew exactly what you wanted. You knew what you wanted it to look like. And you had the clearest vision of anyone we talked to. So that's why we were like, it's her. Wow. And then we immediately started casting and prepping. It happened so fast. I think I got the job July of last year, so 2018. And then we were casting, and then I was in Texas by September, and then shooting by October.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's a whirlwind.
Crazy turnaround.
Unbelievable. When you look at this, and you look at setting up this pitch and coming forward with it, and I believe we talked about this in our conversation for All That We Destroy. How much did working with Jason and Adam and Judd help you to form the way that you were going to pitch this?
Yeah.
How much was it you more than anything else also?
So it was just basically taking everything I had learned. It's almost like you have these moments that you recognize. It's that moment of taking everything I had learned throughout my 10 years in LA. And it was sort of almost like that was all leading up to this moment. of work. And I there were things on set that I had seen, Judd do or Adam Robitel do that I implemented myself on set. And I was sort of like a sponge, with everything I was doing in my past to then bringing it to my work now. And also this being a totally different kind of movie than All That We Destroy. I was using all those tools with Destroy too. But for Satanic Panic, I was really, I was remembering, okay, what was I, how did the director work on like Bridesmaids or Get Him to the Greek or Funny People? Like what was Judd, talking to the actors and how he did improv. And obviously he's like a comedy genius. So
yeah,
I am not. That was such a good learning tool, and to watch and see like what was working, what wasn't working, why it wasn't working, and then applying that same idea and philosophy to Satanic Panic and figuring things out as we went, and also like improving a little bit, letting the actors have some fun and play, even though we were on a very tight schedule, being like, okay, let's do, one take, whether it's Arden or Rebecca or Jerry or whomever. There's a spoiler alert. There's a scene in Satanic Panic where Jerry kisses
the living room scene.
Yes. When he kisses her face. So licks her face. That was supposed to be very different. And so I saw them talking and I was like, oh shit, they're going to do something. And I was like, what y'all talking about? Right before we did the take. He's like, don't worry about it. I was like, what you talking about? He's like, don't worry about it. And so we were shooting the scene, and the first take we did, he licks her cheek, and I was like, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
And that's, of course, what ended up in the movie.
It's
like, we did a couple other things, but yes. Haley's reaction was perfect, and that's what we ended up keeping in the film. Like, things like that,
That's amazing. And I love the fact, because there's so many filmmakers early in their career where they want to stick to the book, and they don't want to get away because they see the formula. It's the way they've been around people. You're not afraid to improv, which is awesome. And in a film like Satanic Panic, it's needed. I mean, there's so many different comedy beats from so many different figures, and some from unexpected figures.
Yeah.
Jeff Daniels.
Oh my gosh, Jeff Daniel Phillips.
I mean,
I love
some
him.
of it it's going to come out funny, but some of it comes out deadpan, and the look on his face and how tall he is. I mean, there's so many different elements. So looking at that, were you surprised how it all landed? So
basically with like him, because we have, the horror royalty we have in this movie. We have AJ Bowen, we have Jeff Daniel Phillips, we have Jordan Ladd.
AJ is hysterical. He's so sleazy.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my God, I know, right? And with Jeff and Jordan, I basically pulled them aside and I said, I had brief conversations with both of them before we were shooting, but I said, what do you guys want to bring to this? Like what have you, because they had discussed character things between each other, what their relationship was in the movie, like how they function as a couple in the movie versus how like Rebecca and Jerry function as a couple. Like they're much more dysfunctional, whereas like Jeff and Jordan's characters genuinely care for each other. And I said, if you guys want to like really lean into some campiness and some quirkiness to really stand out, like go for it. And it's amazing, like the scene when they're coming down the stairs and he's like, why did I do that? Like, it's great. Like people love that. And just his like little quirks in his character. And yes, having some be deadpan, and that was all, I loved what they brought to it. I loved it so much. And that's the thing when I was working with my actors, obviously they know what I want out of the performance.
Right.
But then I also want them to bring something to it and see what they want to do to play with the role.
It's not on the page that they're bringing to it.
Exactly.
And that's one of my favorite things to hear filmmakers talk about is what is not on the page that the actors do. But it's also a credit to the director that they're able to get those performances and build that trust. Yeah. Now, this being your second feature with a lot of actors that have been around for quite a while, is there any fear or worry about building that rapport, building that trust? Or is it because you've worked with so many that it's not there? What is it for you?
It's so, there's something like very exhilarating but also terrifying about working with like almost all these actors I have watched for years and been a huge fan of. And so then you get to work with them and it's so surreal. And that, yes, and you want them to trust you and to be on the ride with you, because you can always tell when someone's not, like in a movie, when they're like phoning it in or whatnot. But also considering the budget that this movie was, there wasn't a single person on the cast or crew that didn't want to be there. Like It's like, it's not like someone was taking the role for a paycheck. Like that was not what this was. Everyone was there because of the script.
Pleasure.
Exactly. Because of the script, or because wanting to work with a female director, or, getting to shoot in Dallas, being a part of Fangoria. Like Rebecca was a huge fan of Fangoria and of horror. And I had a great Skype conversation with her right after she finished the script, and she loved it. And then also working with her and Jerry in real life are married, and in the movie are married. And, also someone like Ruby Modine, who's on Shameless and Happy Death Day. And then newcomer Haley Griffith.
Exactly right. She knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, and she was a big fan, she's a big fan of Rebecca Romaine as well. So, it was a dream for her to get to work with Rebecca as well. And Jerry and Arden, of course, was incredible. So it was like an embarrassment of riches with this cast, also the cast of my first movie. So I've just been, I feel like, incredibly lucky. And everyone just worked so hard, and we had like this rain, and it was cold, and oh my God, just like, but everyone was there for it. We didn't have any like, major disasters or anything. Like, we got very, very lucky. So I'm super thankful. They were just here for the craziness and getting to do gore effects, and it was a lot of fun.
The relationship between the two female leads, the way the friendship, whether it's out of necessity or it's actually out of, by the end of the film, a genuine care for each other. It's that arc of, learning your wrongs and wanting redemption, which is beautiful, because there's a lot of gray area in between because of the situation it's put in. But how did you establish chemistry once you decided to cast them?
So Ruby was the first one cast of the two women, and then Haley, she did a self-tape, and I saw it, and I said, that's it, she's Sam. Like, it has to be her. And that I was I was just super lucky, because Haley and Ruby met each other, and because they had never met each other, never worked together before, and they just fell in love with each other, and they are like best friends to this day.
Wow.
Like, they were connected at the hip through all of shooting, and it was so magical to watch that. And now they're like best friends for life, I think. And
wow.
Yeah, so they immediately clicked. Like, I don't even think, God, I'm trying to think if we even met. No, I don't think we all met until we were like all together. Like, I had Skyped with Haley. I had met Ruby before, but the three of us together until we were in Texas, like doing a, meeting about the script and doing a little rehearsal and read through. And I think that moment in the movie with the skin sealing scene between Haley and Ruby.
So good.
Yeah.
I hope it came off.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, though it was figuring out what to use for that was very interesting.
Oh, God, it was funny.
Because talking to my props department and the makeup department about because if to do more than one take, we had to like, wipe it off, and we can't have there be any residue or anything. So, but we made it work. We figured out what to use. That scene, shooting that was really difficult, but those moments between the two of them are so incredible. And I remember just sitting at the monitor being like, this is amazing, and like really bringing that. I remember storyboarding that scene, and the scene was really intense to shoot, and we were in this teeny kitchen, and we had 2 cameras, and it was hot as balls because we had all these candles everywhere, and it just makes the room, everyone's just drenched in sweat. And then also the scene where after the skin sealing, where Ruby is just finishing up wiping the last of it off of her, and walks in, and they have the conversation where I'm a spoiled brat with a gun, and you're a blue collar badass who just won't quit.
Work.
That's the heart of the movie. Like, that right there is the heart. And personally, is like, those are my 2 like favorite scenes. Yeah.
When you look at the aspect of practical, hands-on, and you're talking about the skin sealing, and then you deal with the aspect of demonic and occult and witchcraft, part of that is CGI, part of it is practical, if I'm correct. When you went into it, knowing the research, being around horror for a long time, what was your thinking on how you wanted the witchcraft to come across? Because in the film, it's got to be impactful. Because there's plenty of films that do it, and you sit back and you go, oh, yeah, that's a spell. It's great. You wanted to put your fingerprint on the aspect of the occult. How did you want to do that? Bringing
Grady's words to life. Like, a lot of that's from Grady's brain. And I remember, like, the Enochian writing, the sort of angel vocabulary alphabet that we picked for Haley. We went through and specifically picked out like what's, what do we put? What seals her skin? Like what's the spell? Like we tried to find, like there's real satanic objects on set. We really tried to bring authenticity to it. Exactly. Yeah. We tried to bring as much authenticity to it as we could. And even with all the production design, everything like really leaning into that. And, all the effects, yes, all the effects are practical. Everything, which is crazy.
So was there any CGI?
There's a very small. I think there's like 2 scenes with CGI. One is when is the heart, the soul, when the soul's pulled out of the neck, and you see the little. We really wanted to lean into that 80s like I love how like 80s lightning looks and things like that in movies, and I wanted to lean into that a little bit. And the other. God, what else was there? There was nothing anyone would ever know because it's all it's like, oh shit, there's an extension cord over there. We got to VFX that out, or you can see something in the corner, like take that out. Stuff that you just honestly you can see the movie 20 times and I'll still catch something here or there. And I was like, it just happens sometimes. But we had the soul sack, that comes out of the oven and it's squirming. That's puppetry, and then the sheet is all. The Haxan cloak attack is all puppetry, rods, wires, reverse photography.
Wow.
That scene itself took a lot to shoot, and also, little tricks of like telling Haley like how much of this sheet can you stuff in your mouth and not look like a chipmunk? Like how much can you? And then we pull it out, and then it's a hand trick. Just have her hand slide down the tree, just the sheet to make it look like things like that, and. Obviously, we have the tree monster. That was really fun to do, but the person who was playing the tree monster had the flu and was super sick when we were doing it, so we had to, we had to lift up the mask to breathe and all that. But that looked so cool. Like, loved doing that. And our Baphomet, which is obviously like a full suit. So, yeah, it was really all that stuff was so fun to do, and practical. Like, they take a lot of time. And you cross your fingers and hope that they work because sometimes they don't want to. And luckily, pretty much everything, we didn't have any major issues, and we're able to pull it all off. But
before we talk about Grady and working with him, and one of the things about All We Destroy, and we talked about this, is the violence of it and the aggression and. When the two of them are together in the room and they're going through it, there's an intensity. There's almost a sexual connection, which we see later on in the film on why that's there.
Yeah.
So my question for you is this: there's a impregnation scene in the third act, but you really don't show much, and it's so different than All We Destroy, because All We Destroy, even though it's shot differently as you go through, it's very in your face. This is not, and it's not necessarily comedic, mind you.
Yeah.
But it definitely gets the idea. It's almost like a Rosemary's Baby in the
Absolutely.
way they do it. So can you talk about something like that? Because with satanic rituals, that's one of the keys to it. That's one of the things that people associate is the aspect of getting pregnant and having the devil's baby. What is the thinking with shooting a scene like that?
Biggest reference we used for that was Rosemary's Baby. And in the script, I asked Grady, I said, I remember reading it, and I was like, she actually doesn't have any physical contact with the devil like in Rosemary's Baby. She does. And it's basically like an immaculate conception. Whereas like he's looking at her, he's basically almost possessing her
pregnancy through osmosis.
Yeah, he's basically like possessing her, her womb and impregnating her from afar. And I wanted to edit it in a violent way. So that's why, there's him getting closer and closer to her and her screaming, and she's going through all of that. She's feeling all of that, even though they're not actually touching. And then also it's one of those things, because it's so supernatural, she is impregnated, her belly is growing, and she's fully pregnant within seconds. Like, it's happening so fast to her, and that's why she's experiencing so much pain. And then through it all, she then looks over and sees Gary and is like, Michael Polish's character is like, you're the fucking reason. if you would have just tipped me, I'd never be here. And then also, ultimately, Sam Mazel, the little girl played by Maya Perkins, she's the one pulling the strings through the whole ending. So that's why, like, the minute, like, Arden breaks the salt circle and, you know, Sam Mazel, you know, Sam's character is going through her mantra, two fuzzy bunnies, go to the Sams, like, Sam Mazel's completely pulling the strings through everything. Like, she's the one who causes all the chaos. Like, and I love seeing that. And again, it's like, you know, when we see a lot of these satanic movies, these rituals are happening in a basement or in the woods,
right?
You know, or in super secret. Whereas this is in a super bougie backyard.
Yeah.
It's like, how would Martha Stewart throw this satanic impregnation of this person?
I hate to say it, but it might have happened. So you might.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah. How would she, like, throw a party to impregnate someone? So basically, that's what we just leaned into with all the production design throughout the whole movie. I was like, okay, what's the high fashion, upper class 1%? Every time whatever room we were in, I would always tell the production designers that. I said, what would Martha Stewart do?
Rebecca Romijn Stamos. Well, not Stamos. Rebecca Romijn.
Yeah.
She is at the center of it, and she's fantastic. Comedic.
Yep.
Wicked.
Yep.
You see shades of different characters throughout time. So she definitely has an understanding and a comfort in what she's doing. What did she bring that wasn't on the page?
Oh, my gosh. Well, she totally slays this movie. She's so fierce. And she absolutely owned this role.
Yes.
Like, she knew, you know, we had talked about what I wanted, what, you know, motivations, but she made my job so easy because she came there fucking ready to rock. She has very long, these kind of long monologues that she does, both the exchange she has in front of her car with Haley and Ruby, and the TED Talk at the beginning, and also the ending with sort of the incantation,
right?
And memorized every line of it. It was pretty incredible. And I was honestly, like, shooting those scenes, I was in complete awe of her. Also, she's just beautiful in general, and she just crushed it. She also had these subtle things she would do that I just loved, especially the scene where she's, like, fist fucking Jerry's neck, which is so wonderful. And also just some of the little things the little sounds she makes during that scene were improvised. And also, you know, she was wearing jewelry, and she's like, well, I don't think Danica would just reach in his neck wearing her, like, bracelet and her rings, because what if they got stuck in his body cavity? So it's like, okay, well, let's take them off, and then you hand them to your assistant. Like, how quick can you take everything off? And it was like she'd done it 100 times. Like, she just, like, took them off, handed them over, was talking to Samuel. Just these little things that she would do to, like, elevate Danica's character, which was really awesome. And it just was like, yeah, she's done this 100 times. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's something when you look at all the things that she's done in her life, acting, modeling. I mean,
yeah.
You know, she's been around people that probably have been exactly the way that Danica is to a certain extent. So, you know, it's a smart casting with it. Was she at the top of the list, or did she come later on for it? Where was her?
Yeah, she was on our, you know, original casting list from the very beginning. And the timing just happened to totally line up. Like, she just happened to be available. But she also loved Fangoria, and she loves horror, and and also she just hadn't really done horror. Obviously, she's done sci-fi with the X-Men and things like that.
Right, exactly.
And Star Trek, but she hadn't had a chance to do it before. And so I was so excited to be able. Or Jerry has, you know, done horror movies and everything from Scream 2 to Piranha. Like, he's done that. But I was so excited to get to do that with her.
Wow.
But yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches with this cast. I'm like, so...
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, so thankful. And then also having, like, Arden and Mike Winfield,
right.
who, you know, watching him and AJ
and
Haley
God.
together is so awesome. Like, they're so... Like, that scene when she's getting on the Vespa and he's talking about the last time he went to Mill Basin. He's improving, like, half that stuff. Like, almost
That's
that whole
great.
thing is improv. Because I was like... I went up to him, I said, Mike, I just want you to do your thing. Like, just, we, you know, once we had the take where we had all the lines and stuff, I was like, I want you to just go crazy here and just say whatever you want to say in this section. And of course, that's what's in the movie because it's so fucking great.
So talk about working with Grady and Ted. I mean, Grady, Paperbacks from Hell, among other things. And I bring that up because now he's got part 2 that's in the works, and it's about to hit festivals. And, the book is amazing, Paperbacks from Hell. So when you found out you were working with him and Ted, what was the thinking?
Well, that's one of the reasons I said yes, because when I got the script and saw his name on it, I was like, wait a minute, Grady Hendrix, the novelist, like this, that's got to be, there's no one else who has that name. So I was a huge, huge fan of my best friend's Exorcism. Like, I would kill to direct that movie. So I loved my best friend's Exorcism. Horror Store, obviously Paperbacks from Hell. He has his new one, We Sold Our Souls. And I was of course familiar with Ted Gagan's work. We Are Still Here and Mohawk, and they had worked together. And so I was like, yeah, I absolutely want to work with them. I was nervous about coming onto a project where, like, I wasn't there from the inception of the script, which I was with All That We Destroy. I was, that was written for me, and I worked with the writers extensively on the script. So this, I was nervous because I had never met Grady, and so I was like, oh, like, I have ideas. There's things I want to change. He could tell me, like, screw you. No, I'm not doing any of that.
Exactly.
Or he could be cool with it. So I was really nervous. And sure enough, once I asked my questions, and we went through the script basically scene by scene, because I was like, I want to make sure I'm bringing your vision to life as much as I can. And just going through my notes for the script, and he said yes to everything. And once I explained why I wanted to change A, B, C, or D, he was like, yeah, of course, that absolutely makes sense. And so that was really cool. That experience was amazing. And I finally met him in Dallas right before we shot the movie, because we did a table read. And it's great to hear it out loud. We made a couple dialogue adjustments and things in the script to clarify a couple things. And that was really magical. And then he got to see a cut of the movie because I wanted his notes. I just loved working with him. He's so wonderful and so funny. And just his Paperbacks from Hell performance, I saw it over.
Amazing.
Amazing,
I saw it at Chattanooga, and I couldn't stop laughing. And I listened. That was one of the few books where I popped it on and listened the entire way through and didn't stop once.
Yeah.
Because it's so smart, and it's so self-reflective, and it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's when you find out that he worked with Ted on Mohawk, it's kind of a 180 from his normal material, and shows the diversity he has. It shows his range of what he's able to do as a writer.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things, and this is something I've talked a lot about in the show over the years, and we're right now in an era where the female filmmaker is on the rise. There's so many projects that are coming out. This weekend alone in Cinepocalypse, you have several, including another episode of Into the Dark with Gigi Sol Guerrero.
She's awesome.
With Culture Shock. She's amazing. And just like you both have worked so hard to move up the ranks and be able to do what you're doing. Is this a film that needed a female perspective?
Yeah.
Well, before you answer, the reason why I bring up is because I believe that there are some films and some topics that are better set for a particular gender. Doesn't mean they can't be pulled off or have a different twist on them, but something like this, I would think.
I absolutely think so. And that's when I read this movie, with the script, I was like, oh yeah, now I totally see why. Like this world. Not to say that if a man directed Satanic Panic, it would be a totally different movie. It's just whoever's vision it is for it. But I was so excited to be able to direct something. It was exciting for me because it's literally women run this movie.
Exactly right.
They are front and center, and actually, all the men are like pretty lousy in terms of as people in the movie. Which I asked Grady about that at one point. I was like, "Is there a reason like all the men are kind of like scum in this movie?" but it's like no, none of that was intentional. It's just sort of how it worked out, because just all the power. Women have all the power in this movie. And I thought that was so fucking cool. And to see a satanic cult / coven run by women, like it is Gypsy and Danica running that place. And nobody thinks twice about listening to them, And of course, then chaos ensues and things change. But I loved that. I loved that aspect so much. And Sam's journey throughout it.
Right.
Too. So, yeah. I'm so happy that I was the woman that got to do it.
Now, one of the aspects that you brought from All That We Destroy, your DP mark.
Yes.
Was that part of the arrangement? Was that part of you coming on to this project that you brought him for any number of reasons? Yeah,
Vangoria basically said when I came aboard, like, you, of course, could bring your DP.
That's great.
He's the only person you can bring because of budget. reasons.
Gotcha. It's
You know,
always budget.
Yeah, because to fly people out from LA, because we shot in Texas, so to fly people out and put them up, that's money that's being taken away from other things. And so it was like, oh, I had, sacrifices you had to make. However, the crew in Dallas I had was amazing. I was very lucky to have such incredible people on my movie.
Right.
But I've known Mark 15 years. He's shot pretty much everything I've done. Obviously, we had been through the trenches together in All That We Destroy. So we have a shorthand as well, which is super helpful. And he knows me really well and can put up with my bullshit. So we also lived together when we were shooting. So we were literally together 24/7 when we were shooting Satanic Panic. But it was super helpful because we'd like come home. Sometimes it'd be like the sun would be up and it'd be 6 a.m. and we'd talk through what we were going to shoot in the next like 8 hours. And because we shot listed and storyboarded everything, so we'd talk about it. We'd be like, okay, it was basically a conversation of what shots do we have to cut to make our day? Like, what do we have to, because also in this budget level, you can't really go over that much.
Right,
you have to really try not to. And you're dealing with children for some of the stuff with Maya and the twins, or Ranger and Jonas in the babysitter scene.
Wait till you see the twin scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
So it's like a lot, but to have him, it was so nice to have him by my side because there's also a level of comfort for me. And we would just watch movies and all of the influences for this movie and really study them while we were leading up to shooting in prep. And then, when we storyboard, we shoot the whole movie with little plastic models and we build the set out, and same thing we did for Destroy, and we take pictures of it and put it in a giant Bible and give it to all the department heads so everyone knows exactly what we want this movie to look like. It's a ton of work, but when you're on such a tight schedule, you just have to go with it. I was very lucky to have him on this, and obviously, like you've seen the movie, he did a beautiful job shooting it. Mark's, everyone should hire Mark and work with him. That's my plug for Mark.
It's a good plug. It definitely is. Now, as I brought up before, a majority of your crew, this is like a first credit on there, especially production designer, art director. This is for them the first time. Can you talk about bringing in people that you not only haven't worked with before?
Our production team, they had done a lot of TV. They had done Queen of the South is one of the things they work on. And when I met with them, what they had in mind for the movie, I was like, holy shit, like they loved the script so much. And what they, like their vision for it was so in line with mine. I was like, oh my God, this is meant to be. And also similar with Haley, like I love the chance to give people, giving people the chance to have that opportunity.
Absolutely.
To do a feature. Like Haley, that was her first feature. And so having these folks like get that department head credit or get the art director credit on a feature only helps their career. And we're kind of all in the trenches together. So
exactly.
It's like, it's this sense of family and camaraderie, and you're all working together. And it's, honestly, I think it's how you like get through it, and how people are working these, insane hours, and we were all in it together. And I think and again, no one was there who didn't want to be there. Like, not a big payday for anybody. So they genuinely wanted to be there. And also I had done interviews. I had talked to people on the phone previous to like pick, like all through prep to pick who
right.
I felt was best for the job. And working together, production design, costumes, hair and makeup, we were all working together in terms of the visual look of the movie. And my DP, what does this scene in the house look like? Okay, what are the cultists wearing? How is the hairstyle? What's the jewelry they're wearing? Like, so we wanted to make every frame look as picturesque as possible because we wanted that high fashion element, that upper class element, 1% to come throughout the whole movie. And I've also, I should apologize to like Fangoria and Cinestate, but I've been telling my crew, I was like, y'all got to come out to LA. Come out to LA and work on more things with me. Like, I shouldn't be poaching anyone, but yeah.
You just suggest.
I just suggest. Right. That's right. But also now more and more things are filming in Texas and filming in Dallas. So it's great to see my crew on all sorts of things, commercials, TV, features, and just keep getting steady work, which makes me really happy.
You just said your crew. And that's one of the things that I love when it's personal, when it becomes ownership isn't the right word, but a partnership, I think is the right word. So how does that feel after a decade of primarily being part of a crew to having your own crew?
Yeah, I know it's sometimes a faux pas to say my DP, I do not own these people whatsoever, but partnership is such a great way to phrase it. Oh yeah, it's so magical because there'll be certain crew members that are just operate on the same wavelength as you, and you think, and also I'd come from when I was growing up watching movies, and I'd pay attention to like Tim Burton's movies, like always working with Colleen Atwood to do costumes, always working with Danny Elfman. Like I noticed, people using the same crew members over and over again, and I was like, oh, that's like their family, that's their movie, their chosen movie family. And through my experiences on these 2 features, I'm like, okay, now it's like, who do you hand pick for the next one to bring on and go in the trenches again and work together? Yeah, it feels so good. And you're like, oh, we're all like-minded people. Like these are like my people, my community. Like
it's a big dysfunctional family.
Totally. And to know that they're going to work their ass off, not just for you, but for the movie as a whole is pretty awesome. That they believe in it is magical.
Speaking of magical, talk about the location.
Oh my goodness.
Because you have the pizza place and then you have the neighborhood.
So the pizza place, also we wanted it to very much feel like, even when she's riding the Vespa, we're going through different neighborhoods. So we're going from like lower class neighborhood, middle class, upper class, and we wanted to show that kind of progression. Yeah, the pizza parlor was super small. The houses, however, were huge. Like the main location, so Danica's house, that was humongous, and this is like a big time movie spoiler alert, but we Frankensteined some of the locations, so there are multiple locations, which every movie does, multiple locations for different parts of her home.
Exactly.
And the main house, the mansion, you see, like when those gates open, that huge mansion actually had a water park, a fully functional water park in the back that was just for the family. I can't even imagine that. It was so surreal. I have a video on my phone of it because I was like, this is insane. And also it has like a Pirates of the Caribbean sort of theme in the back, like with these animatronics, and it lights up. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. So
because I want to clarify, because I just thought about the question I asked you originally.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the pizza place. Making it, a small location, making it look bigger. Mm-hmm. That's what I was talking about with the neighborhood, because there are other films, that you see, and especially within genre, where they'll have one location, but they make it look like it's like 3 or 4 locations.
Yeah.
The way they shoot it, the way they block. So that's what I was talking about with that. And to listen to say that this was the real thing, you didn't have to do anything. It was right there. It was
all there. And honestly, like for production design, we used a lot of what was in the house. Like, they brought in a couple things here and there to make it feel more satanic, but we used as much as we could in the house.
Right.
We're like, yeah, let's use all of this. And it just blew my mind. There was another part of that house that there's a full basketball court, like full size. It was insane. It was like another level of insanity. And I just never seen anything like that before. And yeah, there's a lot of Frankensteining. So there's a lot of using this location for this room. I think everything in Gypsy's house, that's all one location. Like we didn't Frankenstein anything with her house. Like everything that we shot there is one house. But it's really like movie magic, man. Like it's really incredible what you can do. I've just never seen, and I've seen some pretty incredible houses, but that was like another level. I'm sure stuff like that exists in LA. I just haven't been privy enough. I don't think I'm in the tax bracket yet to see stuff like that.
When I see the Back to the Future tattoo on your arm, do you look at those houses and go, I wish I could go back and change something in my life where it could be something like that? I mean, do you have a connection to the material in that, or as a filmmaker or as a person, you go, I could never imagine this. Even putting the story together, you can imagine being involved in something like this.
I can't imagine it at all because I don't know what it's like to not be poor. So
you and me both.
Yeah, like I, in the sense of like, yes, I'm lucky enough to be able to survive in a city like Los Angeles, which is very, very difficult, and to constantly be working to, like, I live paycheck by paycheck. Mm-hmm. I was raised in a lower middle class family, but I don't know, like, until a year ago what it was like to have a savings account. Like, I've been an assistant let's say 2018. Yeah, 2018, last year was my first year living in Los Angeles and not having, and I will say, and just being a director, just directing. That's all I did last year. Whereas all the years before I had to assist or temp or do whatever to pay the rent. And I've, never had the luxury of just being a director until last year. So this is my 12th year in LA. So it's been that many years of just working for other people. And finally starting to not a lot of money, but save a little money for when I'm unemployed.
Right.
Like now. Yeah, I don't think my brain can fully, unless I get some giant, unless someone gives me Conjuring 4 or something like that. I don't know
You
if
never know.
I think certain people get, blessed with that, I will say, or maybe it's a curse, who knows. I just try to, I have even though I may not be financially rich, I have an incredibly rich life.
Exactly.
And I have
right.
amazing friends and an amazing boyfriend, an amazing community in the horror space. And I'm healthy. My parents are healthy. Not everyone, has those luxuries. So I am super thankful for everything I have. And because money, as much as it makes things easier or harder, isn't everything. So
very blessed and very fortunate, which is what I say every day. If I didn't have the ghost, if I didn't have my puppy dogs at home, if I didn't have my family and friends, and what I do with this, most people don't realize it until it's gone, and thankfully we realize it. Why it's right here. Real quick. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I've also worked incredibly hard to get where I am. I have never stopped working.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah, it's the perpetual hustle.
Real quick before I wrap it up, talking about sound and score, when you realized that you were just going to be a director this year and you actually had some financial security, as fleeting as it might be, did you go out and do something? Did you buy something for yourself when you were able to do that? Because I know for me, when I hit certain goals in my life, whether it's through the aspect of the radio, horror, whether it's my other business with special needs, and I find something special enough for myself or something to get my fiance, I generally go out and do it, because you only live once.
Yep.
So was there anything like that for you?
Ooh, that's a great question. You know what? It was a really good Christmas. I made a point.
Awesome.
Yeah, I made a point to get. And my parents came to LA for Christmas too, and I just made a point to try to kind of spoil everybody a little bit, because it was the one chance I had to do that, or
that's
birthdays
awesome.
or whatnot. And I also, there are certain things I do to refuel, and that involves there's a place in Joshua Tree I go, so I got to do that, a couple little vacations with my boyfriend, just to I've been gone shooting, I owe you. And treating myself, I'm a foodie, so treating myself to a
awesome.
Great meal or sugarfish. There were a couple places I went. I did treat my first check I got for Satanic Panic. I actually went to 4 different record stores in a day in Dallas,
awesome.
And spent way too much money on vinyl and books. I went to Half Price Books, and I think I bought 15 books, a huge stack. And my boyfriend Sean was like, "Oh my God, you like
your star?"
I come back with all this stuff. He's like, "Where are we going to put all this?" And buying some art. So that's I think what my little splurges and indulgences were, and then I literally put all of the rest in savings.
It's so hard to be able to do it, because when you have the opportunity, and I credit my father a lot with the man I am and where I've been. So when you have opportunities like that to treat your parents as well, I just did a short film and I had my dad cast in it, because he had always wanted to do something like that. And it was whether it's something tangible or intangible, just like all the yard work I have to do as soon as I go home, because my fiance puts up with me being on the road, and she's very supportive and loving, but it takes a toll on you to be able to do it. But it's nice to be able to repay them, whether it is tangible or intangible.
Yeah, it's so funny, because when you always have those conversations about what would I do if I won the lottery?
Exactly right.
And it was oh, well, I see what my parents need. Do you want a new car? Do you need an addition on the house? What do you need? For myself, it'd be eliminating any debt. And then I was oh, well, do any of our friends, do we want to help them get out of debt?
Right, exactly.
I'll pay, who's college tuition or credit card bill or whatever. And then after all that stuff, giving to charity, this, that, and the other. And it's like, and then I want to take all my friends on a vacation somewhere. Let's get a jet. Let's take everybody. Like, how can we pay it forward? How can we
That is awesome.
help our friends feel loved too, so.
Let's finish it with this, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Playing here at Cinepocalypse, Satanic Panic, and we'll get, again, the details about the release come the fall.
Yep.
As a filmmaker, talk about the sound and the score and what it meant, because especially in that third act, well, not even more focused in the third act, but throughout a good portion of the first into the second and the third, you've got all these rituals. You've got all this, chaos going on. Where does the sound design come from?
Yeah, the whole post-production process for this was actually really fun. Everything from my editor, Mike Sale, who I knew when I worked for Judd Apatow, so he's a comedy editor, and then getting into like sound design and score, which are so important, especially in the horror genre. And with the score, I was like, okay, how do I get like 70s giallo rock, like Goblin meets John Carpenter synth? Right. And I was like, I was like, I'm a fan of so many artists. And I remembered there's a movie called Boogeyman Pop that's coming out. And I remember seeing like posts about that movie, and Wolfman of Mars was credited as the composer. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm a fan of Wolfman of Mars. Like I'm on their Bandcamp and had listened to them a ton. And I was like, well, I don't know if they're available because the same director who did Boogeyman Pop just finished another movie. And I was like, oh, I bet they're scoring his second film. And I just reached out on like Instagram of all things. And I was like, hey, I don't know if you're available, but I have this movie. This is what it is. Would you be interested? And they got back to me right away. They're like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like,
that's awesome.
So we sent the script and the edit of the movie and the budget. And they said yes. And I was super lucky. And it was such a dream working with them. They're out of Boston, so they're not LA based. So we were doing everything remotely, and it was and also horror comedy is not easy to score. Crushed it, completely crushed it. I'm hoping we get a vinyl release of some sort, and also sound design. I worked with this incredible sound design team in Hollywood, and we got multiple days to work on it, which was wonderful, and they were all incredible. And I was like, very particular about the sound design, and we worked really hard on it. And that's why, seeing it, the sound in Texas was especially amazing. And just to hear all of that hard work sounds so beautiful. It was amazing. Yeah. And then also to speak to the songs in the movie, like you were, so in the finale, we have a Chelsea Wolfe song, and we actually edited that whole scene to that song before we had the rights to it.
Wow.
And so we're like locking
Fingers
the
crossed.
movie and trying to get the rights, and we weren't hearing back from her. My music supervisors were trying to get in touch with her, and I had written this huge letter to her explaining like what a big fan I was and why the song, I wanted the song in that scene to be a female artist to help portray what Sam was going through in this scene. Right. So, what we needed was very specific, and her song was so perfect for it. And then we didn't hear anything because she was in the middle of finishing another album, I think. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to switch it out. Like, we can't recut the movie. Like, if it's cut to this song. And then I find out that I look her website up, and I'm searching for contact information and all this stuff. Even though other people are doing this for me, of course, I can't relinquish control and just let people do their jobs because I'm a busybody. But I realized that her North American booking agent is the same agency where I am repped. So I asked my agent, do you know this agent at your company? Can you help make this happen? And reached out and resent the letter and everything. And in 24 hours, she said yes. So I was like, wow. And we literally locked the movie that day. Like, she said yes. We're like, okay, we locked the sound mix, I should say. The picture was already locked. Couldn't go back and do anything. Right. And she said yes. And I'm like, oh my God, this was a dream. Like, to have that. And music is so difficult. And to have them say yes when like we had something similar with All That We Destroy, the Babies song.
Right.
That was in the script. You literally hear her say in the movie, "Play the Babies." I'm like, what the fuck do we do if we can't get that song? And of course, I'm like writing letters and taking pictures of me with all the Babies albums, and they said yes. Like, you just once in a while have these miracles where they say yes, and they believe in what you're doing and your vision and are there for it. And I'm so thankful for that. But the music and sound design was one of the most fun parts.
Real quick, because more recently now, we're seeing a lot of musicians from different subgenres of music becoming composers. In Rocky Gray comes to mind because he's done a lot of independent horror, and he was the drummer for Evanescence. Is it a different feel to have a musician become a composer versus someone who's a traditional composer? Was it a different feeling having that on this film?
That's a good question. Well, it's interesting to see, like, for John Carpenter, for example, like to see Cody Carpenter start composing, or Daniel Davies to start composing. And I think, honestly, like, what composers do and musicians do blows my mind.
Oh, exactly. Are you kidding me?
Like, it's so incredible.
I wish I had announced that talent.
Yeah, or even seeing like Danzig, scoring his movie, and I think it's all about emotion. Like, musicians are conveying emotion through music, and so film, it's the same thing. Like, I remember speaking to my composer I realized that through both movies, it's like, I'm not a musician. And my boyfriend's a musician. I said, how do I give notes about, how do I speak in musical terms as someone who's not a musician? And he's like, no, you speak in emotions. I was like, oh yeah, duh, of course you do. And so that's how we worked through everything. Anytime I had notes, I was like, let's talk about the emotional arc of this scene. And they literally like got what I was saying immediately. But yeah, to see people who are musicians and then transition into composing, to me is a no-brainer, and I love seeing that. Like seeing Lords of Chaos and Sia Rose composed the music to that, and I was like, holy shit, that is awesome. And it's sort of a fun incentive to I'll look at, like, what bands are composing music for movies, and that's just another incentive to go see it or to get the soundtrack or whatnot. So I love seeing that, and I hope to see more of it. Like M83 also doing the Tom Cruise movie, Edge of Tomorrow. Was it? Edge of Tomorrow?
Yes.
Or Oblivion. No, it was Oblivion. They did.
Okay.
Maybe they. Yeah, Oblivion. They did the score to that, and so I just love seeing that. I will listen to certain bands and think, oh man, I'd love for them to score a movie. Like, I like Drab Majesty or Orville Peck, or it's like, how do I get them to score my movie? Like, and so anytime they're open to it is really cool to see that.
I love that trend. And what's one thing also I've noticed over the last few months with this new crew of films for the Fest year is that if you're looking for someone to be an editor of a film, look to a musician to be an editor of the film, because they understand the beats, they understand the emotion, they understand the composition, and it's something I had not even thought about until this year.
Yeah. In
the brilliance that it is, it's kind of crazy, how they're able to transition from one to the other.
Totally.
Chelsea, now, first of all, what's next now for you?
Sleep. Teeny hiatus. So
good.
Cinepocalypse is my last film festival. I hope to do Fantasia. And then there's a couple other things coming up, but some of them conflict with like the LA premiere then the movie comes out, and I have to do a big push for it in LA. So I want to kind of take July and August for myself, because I haven't had a break. Like, I literally have not had a break for 2 years. And then I'm attached to a couple projects, 2 of which are from the writers of All That We Destroy, Sean Keller and Jim Agnew. So it kind of just depends on what goes first. And
Fair
I'm
enough.
getting a lot of scripts sent to me for my consideration, like to my reps. So I've been reading a lot of scripts. I have to catch up on that after the festivals. And there's a couple things I want to try to get the rights to. So we'll see. Unfortunately, because Hollywood is so fucking secretive with this stuff, I can't give any more details than that.
That's okay.
But there's a lot of things in the works.
Awesome.
And I can't wait for movie number 3.
Awesome. Where can they find out more?
So social media, Twitter, I'm at Stardust Chelsea, and Instagram, I'm Chelsea Stardust. and I try to keep that stuff fairly updated. And I love, send me a tweet when you see the movie. Let me know what you think. I love interacting with the fans because without them, we are nothing.
Amen. And fall release for the film, correct?
Oh, yes. September 6th, day and date. So theatrical and digital HD and VOD. I will say that is also the weekend that the pretty much biggest horror movie of the year, It Chapter 2, comes out. So I will just say
You got this. Yeah,
well, I just want to say that, I am so excited to see It Chapter 2. I loved Chapter 1, but remember to support the independent movies and the alternative programming. And, go see It Chapter 2 and then go check out Satanic Panic the next day or rent it when you get home on VOD or HD. Don't forget about the indie movies out there. And it's so important to see them and to tweet about them and talk about them. Because it's hard going up against the big blockbusters.
Yeah.
But so I hope people do a little double feature.
Chelsea Stardust, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
We are here at Cinepocalypse, scratching the surface on Horror Happens Radio. Thank you for tuning in to Scratching the Surface here on Horror Happens Radio. Check out our other episodes here on soundcloud.com/horror-happensrs. And again, find us at horrorhappens.com, on Twitter at horrorhappensrs, at ghostjok, and at JYKY Horror. Plus, friend us, like us, share us, facebook.com/horrorhappensrs, and find us on Instagram under JY_KY_FTS. Thanks for listening to Scratching the Surface. And again, the music of the Midnight Syndicate, midnightsyndicate.com. Pleasant nightmares.